Hello aspiring game developers and welcome to another NDS Programming tutorial. If you guys have any graphic designers, you better get them over here because you will need to be on the same page for this tutorial. Because we are going to be going into how to get graphics into your game. So this is a code right now. We're going to be using this project, but before we do that, I need to show you guys exactly what we are going to be doing with graphics. So if I pull this up here and we go back to our Dropbox and I show you some backgrounds. Here are some of our backgrounds from our text slideshow game, Legend of Hellblade. Now one thing you may notice is that they all have this blue bottom area. This blue bottom area is here because the bottom 64 pixels were never shown. So but you can actually set it up so that they can scroll and you can see it. But the reason the images even exist like this is because all of your backgrounds that you use in NDS programming with Nightfox have to have dimensions with multiples of 256. So you can either do a 256 by 256, a 512 by 256, 512 by 512. You can even get into huge numbers by 256. We do that. We'll be doing that way down the road when we talk about Running Water, our 2D platformer. But anyways, this is the format. And another thing you will want to know about this format is that these need to be in BMPs, and not just any old BMPs. These need to be 8-bit or 256 color BMPs. As you guys may know, we have certain tools that we use to create those. Microsoft Paint does not do a very good job. It often kind of screws up the colors when you want to save. I highly recommend not using it. The two programs we use are Ucenti, you guys can look that up, and Sprite version 0.95, which is the free version. Just go into past releases, and you guys will be able to find that. If we have any graphic tutorials, our graphic artists will talk more about that. But anyways, you need to make sure that it's 256 color palette, 256 by 256 minimum backgrounds. So we are going to, what do we do here? Oh, right. We want to get two of these backgrounds into our game, because remember our choice right here is either if they press A or they press B, and we want to display a different background for each of those. So, but before we do that, we have to get these graphics converted into the correct format. So either we'll have the dragon win or that guy to win. We're just going to copy those. And what we want to do is we want to go to where our Nightfox library folder is. And I believe I have it in here. There we go. And we want to go into Tools, and there's this tool called Grit. It stands for GBA Raster Image Transmogrifier. Good luck with memorizing that one. Anyways, this will convert sprites, backgrounds, collision maps, whatever you want, into formats that the NDS can use. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to delete that. We are going to paste these two images in here, And then we're going to go to these batch files, and the one we want is convert backgrounds. We're going to double click that. We'll get a little window that looks like that. Hit enter, and if we go into the backgrounds folder, you should see 3 different files for each background. If you do not see 3 different files, most likely the map file being missing, that means you did not save in the correct format of that 8-bit 256 color palette. What we want to do is we want to copy all of these files, go into our project. We're going to drop them into Nitro files. If you want, you could actually make a new folder called background and put them all in there. For the sake of this tutorial, I am not going to do that. However, okay, I do realize that I did something a little bit stupid here. There should not be spaces in these file names. So what I am actually going to do is I am going to delete that. I'm going to go back into the BMP folder, and I'm just going to call it this and victory, just kind of shorten those a little bit. Convert the backgrounds again. Go back in here. They all got replaced. Copy those, paste them in there, and there. Now we have them in Nitro files. So that's all that actually needs to happen for getting your files converted, and now they are in Nitro files, which basically Nitro files will build all of these images and stuff into the NDS file. So you don't actually have to have a separate folder to come with that has all your resources. You can if you really wanted to, but Nitro files allows everything to be packaged together and also protects makes it harder for people to actually steal some of the images from the games you make if you get concerned about that. So there's everything that we need in there. Now we need to actually get into our game. If you are a graphic artist and we're watching, you can leave now. The rest of this is just going to be coding. So the first thing we're going to do is I always like to make a function called Initialize. And the reason I do this is because when we make games, we're going to have a lot of functions that need to be called right when the game starts up. And Initialize is going to just have all of those all together without being cluttered with main and stuff. Init keyboard and console demo init are going to go in there, as well as, actually we can leave set brightness because normally that would be in a loop for doing splash screens. But right now we need to figure out a way. We have to tell the system that the Nitro files folder exists and that is where we want to be loading our resources from. So we are going to call a function called nf set root folder, and we want to pass in a string called nitrofs. Now if you're not going to be using Nitro files and you want to load separate resources from like fat memory, you would just give the root folder file path for wherever you want to load resources from. As for us, we're going to be using nitrofs. FS stands for file system, if you didn't know that. So next, we need to set up our system the NitroFox system, we're going to call set to D. And it's going to ask us for a screen and a mode. The screen we want is 0 because that stands for the top screen, and the mode is also going to be 0 because that allows us to have 4 8-bit style palette backgrounds layered 0, 1, 2, and 3. The NDS has 4 background layers, and each layer can have a different style of background. The main ones are you can load up basically tile backgrounds, which is what we're going to be doing, where the background gets broken up into tiles and then there's a map with all the tiles. You can also just have a straight just BMP image that you can use, or you can have a special type of rotating scaling background called an affine background. And the modes that NitroFox supports are 0, 2, and 5. If you guys want to look up like what each of those can do, you are free to do so. But one thing I realized I forgot to show you guys is that in NitroFox library there is docs, and there is this English documentation. It's translated from Spanish, but it does show you what you need to know for the functions, and if you're ever unsure, you can either ask in the comments or watch these videos. I'll be showing you guys more of this. But if you ever want to see like what a function does and you're picking this up rather quickly, you can go into that documentation and kind of see all the parameters and warnings and everything for each of the functions in NitroFox library. But anyways, that is set to D. We are only going to be doing the top screen because our bottom screen is where our text is going to be. So next, we want to init tile background buffers. And basically this just means that we have a place for our tile backgrounds to go in RAM. And now we need to init the tile background system, and we have to give a screen for that, which is going to be 0 again. So now our top screen is ready to display backgrounds, and our RAM, our 4 megabytes of RAM, are ready to have tile backgrounds sitting in them. So let's get to actually making our backgrounds. Ooh. First of all, we gotta load them in, and this is going to be load tile background. First thing we need to do is we need to give a file path name. Ours was victory. You do not include the extensions because there's 3 of them. NitroFox automatically does that for you. With tile backgrounds, we have to give a background a nickname, and I'm just going to call this one A, because when the A button is pressed, that is what is going to be displayed. And then we have to give the dimensions, which are 256 and 256. And we're going to be doing the same thing with this one. Alright, our 2 backgrounds are loaded in. if you ever need to unload a tile background from RAM to free up space, you can just do nf unload tile background. The parameters for that are just your nickname, so that's easy. So now that you have all that, we're actually just going to have those backgrounds just staying in because we're going to be having them swap back and forth between what is going to be pressed. So we want to actually display this background on the screen, and to do that we need to create tiled background. First we have to give the screen that we want it, which is going to be 0. Normally you would make constants for the screens and the layers. I'm not for the sake of time in this tutorial. The layer we're going to put on layer 0. Layer 0 is the top layer, layer 3 is the backmost layer. One thing you can do is magenta, which is 256, 0, 256 in the color scheme, is always going to be transparent. So having 4 layers actually makes sense because what's transparent in the top layer will allow a layer underneath to be visible. So you can actually get really cool effects with that. Parallax backgrounds, if you've ever heard of that, totally feasible on the NDS using this library. We actually use that in our platformer, our 2D platformer. It can be done. So we're going to give that a little nickname here. And that is it. And then we're going to replace this line with that and do that. Now there's one other function here. It is nf you can delete tile background, nf delete tile background, if you just want the background to go away. However, when you create a new tile background in the same spot, FX automatically calls nf delete tile background for the previous background for you. So you do not need to worry about that. And we'll get rid of that. So these are our backgrounds, and that is basically all you need to do to get them on your screen. We're going to build this, make sure I didn't do anything wrong. Doesn't look like it. Awesome. We're going to run this. What'd I do? Out of tile background slots. All 64 slots are in use. Error code 103. Set 2D init tile background buffers, init tile background system. I'm missing a step. So I'm actually going to load up this documentation for you guys so you guys can actually see what it looks like. And you can see there is nfset root folder, set 2D. You can actually have functions called show background and hide background, where you get the screening layer. We could actually get the same functionality doing that. Here's where you can scroll the background, and basically you are setting which pixel on the background will be in the top left corner for the X and Y coordinates. And there's sprites. I'll explain sprites later. Init tile background buffers, init tile background system, load tile background, unload tile background, create tile background, delete tile background. there's our issue. You guys were probably laughing at me the whole time if you noticed, but that should do the trick. But you guys got to see what the documentation looks like. And now, if we press that, there's the death, and we can say, we can go, yikes. Or there's the other way. Both kind of bloody, I'm not gonna lie. Our graphic artist was, I don't know. It made for an interesting game, to say the least. But anyways, that is how to get backgrounds into your game. Very, very simple, very, very easy. As you could see, the Night Fox told me you could have up to 64 different backgrounds loaded in at once. If I think this header file has them. Does it? Nope. Where would it be? Tile background.h. Alright. Here we go, right here. You can have up to 64 tile backgrounds loaded into RAM at once. If you need more, you can literally just change this number and it'll add more. Otherwise, if you have a ton of backgrounds, like 200 or so, I would suggest loading in the tile background and then loading in the tile backgrounds you need for a certain section and then unloading them when you are done. One thing that is cool is oh, sorry about that. One thing that is cool is that when you're not sure if you guys heard that, but oh yeah, I am in my dorm suite right now and oh gosh, this is bad. Anyways, I sound like a sheep. Bad. What the heck? I'm in a weird mood tonight. It is. Yeah, it is tonight. I've been recording tutorials all day and solving issues and all that kind of crap. So anyways, this is basically everything. If you need a ton of backgrounds, obviously just unload when you're done. If your backgrounds are smaller than 512 by 512, then you can actually remove them from RAM after you create them. But as soon as you replace that background on screen, then you would have to load it in again. Anyways, oh, by the way, the reason why that works is because there is a separate video memory on the NDS, separate from RAM, that Create Tile Background actually loads the background into. In case you're wondering, I'll be talking about that a lot more when we actually get into sprite animation. This is all you need to know to get your slideshow games with graphics. And next time, we will be discussing sound. Probably my favorite topic of all of this. So, until then, guys, keep making games, people.